Hi, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Critical English Grade 7. We're moving on to a new topic today, and it may not sound new to you, but it's new to what we're doing in the program here tonight. It's nouns and pronouns, and we're looking at both the plural and the possessive forms of each. And much of it is revision for the girls here tonight, and for the students who are joining us online, it may be revision for you, so that's why we're trying to cover two. But if we find that it's going too much or it's going to be too complicated to do both, we'll just focus on one. But let's see how much we can cover in this time. So with us, we have Azaria and we have Alicia. You want to say hi to the camera? Very nice. So our stuff that we have today, usually your teacher may have a list of words on the board and say these are nouns or these are pronouns and these are adjectives. So we're not going to do that today because nouns are only nouns depending on how you use them, right? So before we go into some of the examples that I have here, how about you remind me what you know of a noun, of what you know of a noun? They're naming words. So give me an example of a noun, Nazaria. You can use examples in this room here too.
The chair.
The chair, good. That's a noun. Give me another example, Alicia.
Sarah.
Sarah. Excellent. So we have two kinds of nouns there. The chair, if we're supposed to write that in a sentence, the chair is red. Will the C in the chair be capitalized or common? Common, because it is a common noun. However, Sarah, if we were supposed to write about Sarah, the girl named Sarah is very beautiful. Sarah will start with a capital S because Sarah is a proper noun. So the names of important places and the names of people are usually capitalized. Not the whole thing is capitalized. The first letter is capitalized. So Azaria, your name will be capital A in the middle of a sentence. Alicia, same for you, capital A in the middle of a sentence. And obviously, if we remember capitalization, each sentence needs to start with a capital letter. So that's a different story. So back to our topic, nouns, proper nouns, and we have common nouns. So let's look at the examples that we have on the board there. The computer I just bought is very solid. And as the heading says, these are all common nouns. So what's the bold word in the sentence there? Computer. So that's the noun, and it's a noun because it names something. The thing that we're talking about that was bought is a computer. So that's the name of something. Look at the second sentence. Azaria, can you read it for us and identify the nouns that are there?
He broke the plate I gave him to put on the table.
Good. He broke the plate I gave him to put on the table. So we know the two nouns there are plate and table. Easy things, right? I'm going to ask a complicated question now. Our sentence starts with he, and it also has I. He and I are referring to people, right? But they're similar to nouns, but they're not nouns. They have replaced nouns. So what are they?
Proper noun.
They're replaced. So you take out the noun or you put something else there. So no, it's not a noun. If I call you Azaria, please come to me. Later I can probably tell Alicia I called her to me, referring to you. The her is talking about you. So the her is replacing the noun. So what will that be in that case? What other part of speech? What part of speech replaces a noun in a sentence? You know this one. It's very easy. You saying it? Pronouns. Excellent. So when a word replaces a noun in a sentence, it's usually a pronoun. The girl is going to the market. She is going to the market. So the she replaces the girl in that sentence. So let's look at the other one. We're starting with she could not look at the TV because her eyes were on the phone all the time. So I'll just give a little tip there. Usually when we write words in sentences or so, for school, for homework or so, we need to spell them out. So you notice TV isn't spelled out there? So what's the full name for TV?
Television.
Television, good. So TV is a shortened form of it, or the abbreviated form of it. So when you're writing, don't write TV, you need to spell it out, television. So Alicia, what are the two examples there in this sentence? TV and phone, excellent. So we're going to go through the others very quickly. Azaria, look at question number 4. What's the noun in that sentence?
Pillow.
Pillows. Good, very good. There's also another noun there that wasn't identified. Can you identify it for me? It's not highlighted, but it is a noun. It names something. It names a part of the... Exactly, because it names a part of the house. Excellent. So let's look at the other one. Alicia, I accidentally broke my favorite glass. What's the one there? Glass. That's an easy one, right? So that's the glass that you're drinking from. If it was these that you're wearing here, it would be glasses, because it's these two here, right? So let's look at the other sentence. Azaria, your turn. I added new books to the library. The two nouns would be?
Books and library.
Very good. Alicia, the next one is for you.
I have never seen my mother.
Looks like something is missing there, right? Because I'm sure you've seen your mother before. But if the sentence ends here, for example, if a child is adopted, it is possible that they have never seen their mother before. So if the sentence is to end here, what mark should be there in that sentence that isn't there right now?
Exclamation.
It could be an exclamation, meaning they're surprised or something, right? It could also end with a full stop as well. So it could end with either, depending on the emotion behind it. The other one, tomorrow we will go swimming with my cousin. What's this one, Azaria?
Cousin.
Okay, the next one, Alicia, my brother was promoted today. Brother. And the last one, Azaria, my grandfather is very old now. Grandfather. Easy peasy, right? Lemon squeezy. You have a question? Go ahead.
Number 5, right? Where accidentally, is that gonna be a noun, an abstract?
Think of it. If you accidentally do something, you're describing how something is done, right? And when you're describing something, what part of speech is that? Adjective, right? Because I accidentally broke my favorite glass. How was the glass broken? Accident. So if you say accident, I witnessed an accident this morning, what's the noun there? I witnessed an accident this morning. There is a noun there. Accident. The thing that you witness is an accident. So in that sentence, accident will be the noun. But when you say accidentally, it's an adjective. Right? So let's continue. All right. I may have to review that, but let me do some reading before we review that. Possessive nouns. So I'm going to just share these examples here with you. We have dog, dogs, Maria, Marias, the Brickdam Cathedral, the Brickdam Cathedrals. Now we're coming back to this here because we have something very similar on the next page. Plural nouns. Dog, dogs, girl, girls, cathedral, cathedrals. What do you notice between the possessive nouns and the plural nouns? What's the difference between them? Take your time. It's alright.
You have an apostrophe before the S, and for the plural, there's no
apostrophe. Okay, great. So when you have the apostrophe there, what does it mean when you say it's possessive? Usually you'll use this in a sentence, right? The dog's bark was very annoying. The bark belongs to who?
A dog.
The dog, right? The dogs. If we say the dogs without the apostrophe, the dogs are barking, what do we mean there? More than one dog. So plural dog. So you see the difference? In one, it's owned by the thing, and the other one, it's the plural or more than one of this thing. If I say Azaria's hair is very curly, does it have an apostrophe S or does it not have an apostrophe S? Good, it will need to have one, right? So good. But if I say, if Azaria had a sister and her sister was named Azaria as well, 2 Azarias came walking into the studio this morning, then Azarias in that case would be plural because it's more than one of them, right? More than one of you. So same for the Marias, the one that we have there. Give me a sentence that where a Marias could be possessive. Let's ask Alicia for this one. Make a sentence where Maria's is possessive, and in Azaria you make a sentence where Maria is plural. No, we don't want Maria to be plural. You can do the other one. With the cathedral is plural. So remember, Maria has to own something, right? Now, what's your sentence? Maria's what?
Maria's.
You can describe her and use that as well.
Maria's is very.
Something has to belong to her. So Maria's what?
Maria's dog is very fluffy.
Maria's dog is very fluffy. Good. The dog belongs to Maria, and that Maria's will have an apostrophe S. Excellent. So we have cathedrals for you, Azaria. Plural cathedrals. I can give you a hint. There are, continue.
There are many cathedrals.
Many cathedrals in the world, in Guyana, in South America, all that can work. So cathedrals there, will that have a apostrophe S? No, it will not. But if we go to this other one here, where plural, oh, right here is plural. If we're talking about the brick dam cathedral, and we're talking about the roof of the brick dam cathedral, the brick dam cathedral's roof is leaking. Does it have an apostrophe S? Are we talking about more than one cathedral or one cathedral? One. And this one's cathedral, we're talking about its roof. The brick dam cathedral's roof is leaking, so this one has an apostrophe S. So let's go that over. If it's possessive noun, it will have an apostrophe S after the word, right? If it's plural noun, it will just have an S without the apostrophe. So is S the only way of making a noun a plural noun? Girls, 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 that works. Thief, remember that word in school? It ended with F, but to make it plural, how do we make it plural? VES, right? Good. So you're adding our half, HALF will now become HALVES, halves. Or ox, will that end with an S? So that will be oxen, OXEN. So there are some irregular words in English that doesn't become a plural by just adding an S. But the majority of words, either you add an S or you add an ES. But there's some, like thief and half and ox, which you need to add different endings to it. So once you know what those words are, it becomes easier, right? Wife, what do we add there? The F becomes a V, so WIVES, wives. Very good. Knife with the F, VES. KNIVES, knives. Can you think of any others that ends a bit weird? No? Alright, think about it in the meanwhile. Leaves, good. LEAF, so that would be a V ending again, right? VES, very good. So let's look at this other one. Plural possessive noun examples. So just now we were talking about the cathedral, we're talking about Maria, and we're talking about, what's the first one? Dogs, good. So we're talking about those, and those were all singular nouns we were dealing with. Now we're looking, if we look at the board, we have plural nouns. To make bottle plural, we need to add an S to it, so bottles. But if we're talking about the shelf where the bottles are, obviously it will be the plural bottles we're talking about, right? So it's bottles, because it's plural, more than one, But where does the apostrophe come now? After. So if it's a singular noun, the apostrophe comes before you add the S. If it's a plural noun, it comes after. So look at the other example that we have there. Teams, tournaments. So right now all the schools are having some sports or the other, right? Inter school, inter branch, inter zone coming up, and then nationals will come eventually, right? So teams, they're all in teams. So team is one group of persons, right? If you have teams, it's several groups of persons, or several groups, yes, of persons. So if you have teams, tournament, then it's already plural. TEAMS, plural, with the apostrophe afterwards. Look at the final one there. 3 years experience. So when you start working, when you start applying for jobs, people will want to know if you have experience, right? And they may want 3 years of experience. So the experience now belongs to the years of what? Years of experience. So we're talking about the S for the end of years added by an apostrophe. Easy peasy? So let's review before we go to this other one here. Before we go to this one, let's review. So if it's a singular noun, to make it plural, we add an S. If it's a singular noun, but it's a possessive singular noun, we add what? Apostrophe and then our S. Let's go to the other one now. If it's a plural noun and we want to make it possessive, it will be, how do we make a noun plural? We add an S. So how do we make a plural noun a possessive noun? We add our S and then put our apostrophe. Sounds easy? So if you see it in the book and you see an apostrophe there, that tells you it is possessive. Depending on where the apostrophe is, it's either singular possessive or plural possessive. Now let's look at this one here now. This is something different going on here. I don't have a calculator. Can I borrow yours? So we do have something possessive going on there, right? What's the possessive word there? It doesn't have an apostrophe, but what is the possessive word? How do we know it belonged to somebody?
Apostrophe.
Look at this one here. This one doesn't have the apostrophe, but it is showing possession there. So the first one is I don't have a calculator. Can I borrow yours? The next is I wish I had hair like hers. The third one is Sarah's parking spot is closer than mine is. So what are the possessive words there? They're not nouns, but they're words, possessive words. Okay, so it says I don't have a calculator. So even the sentence is saying that you don't have it, right? So it's not the I. Look again at the same sentence. What could it be? Can I borrow yours? Who does it belong to?
Someone.
Yours, right? And the other sentence, it will be hers. And the third one will be, what's the one in the third? Mine. So we have those three there. They're not nouns. So let's backtrack a bit to what we were talking about earlier. When a word replaces a noun in a sentence, it is a pronoun. So how it's used here, when we have yours, hers, and mine, so since we're talking about possessive nouns, these would be possessive what? They don't have the apostrophe, but they're possessive. They're not nouns. They are possessive what? What part of speech? What part of speech replaces nouns? Pronouns. Exactly, you got it right. So they're not nouns. They are pronouns because they're standing in place of a noun, but they're also possessive. So when it's a possessive pronoun, does it have the apostrophe? Look at it. Are you seeing apostrophe with yours, hers, or mine? No. So possessive nouns have the apostrophe. The possessive pronouns have the apostrophe. Look at it. Does it have the apostrophe? Hard stuff. All right, we're going to come back to this. Give you some time to soak it up. So let's go to this other one here, irregular plural nouns. So we were talking about nouns and adding an s or an es before. So these are some other examples, like when we talked about leaf and leaves, thief and thieves, wife and wives, ox, oxen, those things. What are the two examples we have there? Like children or, what's the other word on the board? Children or teeth. So what is the singular for children? Child. Child becomes children to be plural. And teeth, is that singular or plural? It's plural. What's the singular? Tooth. So if you're going to the dentist and you're taking out one, you're taking out a tooth. If you're going to take out all, you're taking out teeth. So we hope we don't have to go and take out all. If you take out all, you have to wear dentures, right? So let's look at the examples and what it says there. If the irregular plural noun has an s at the end, add only an apostrophe. So if it already ends with an s, you just add the apostrophe. We know that already because we talked about it just now, right? If the irregular if the irregular plural noun does not have an s at the end, add both an apostrophe and an s. We already know this already. So children, does it end with an s? But it's plural. So where does our apostrophe go? After which letter? Do we have an s there?
No.
The plural doesn't end with an s. It ends with children, children, with an n. So it will be apostrophe s. So after children, the apostrophe, then our s. And for teeth, it will be apostrophe and then, right? That's what it says here. Let's continue to the other one there. So we have some irregular possessive nouns, and these are some examples. So geese, and the singular is goose. But even though geese is already plural, the s comes afterwards because this one does not end with an s. If we had flowers, it will come after the s because flowers is plural. But since geese does not end with an s, we have to put the apostrophe before the s. Goose is singular, and obviously singular nouns, you put it before the s, apostrophe then the s. Look at wolves. We talked about something like this just now, right? VES ending. So wolves end with an s. So do we need to put an apostrophe then another s, or just an apostrophe? Just an apostrophe because it ends with an s. Let's look at wolf. Wolf is singular. To make it possessive singular, it will be WOLF apostrophe s. Then we have the then. Heroes feast. The singular for heroes will be hero. But heroes is a plural noun that ends with an s. So the apostrophe goes after our s and nothing else. So let's step back a bit. Let's think about it again. If the plural ends with an s, if the plural noun ends with an s, does it need another s? No. What does it need to show possession? An apostrophe. If it doesn't end with an s, for example, children, it does not. The plural does not end with an s. How do we make it a possessive noun? Put the
S after the apostrophe S after the N.
Okay, you sound a bit confused. Say it again for me.
Put the apostrophe S after the
Apostrophe S. Good. So which comes first, the apostrophe or the S?
The apostrophe.
Apostrophe, then the S, because it does not end with an S. If it had ended with an S, like flowers, where do you put another S? No, just the apostrophe. All right. So let's go to this other one now. Remember we were talking about this just now? Possessive pronouns. And you guys were looking at me a bit confused. So we had some on the board, as in mine, yours, and I think it was something else was used, right? I think hers was used probably. So those are called, according to what we have on the board here, what are they called? Possessive pronouns. So we're going to go into a little bit of diving again. So we know what plural and we know what singular are, correct? What are some of the other words you're seeing on the screen there? first person, second person, and third person. Do you know what those mean? You do? Alright, let's hear. Alicia first and then Azaria.
It's, they mean like, oh, it's like, but I don't know how to say it.
Alright, you want to help Azaria? We're going to come back to you.
First person is when you're talking about one person.
You're talking about one person. Usually that one person is this person here, right? But if you say I, can you say I bottle and mean that you own this bottle? What would you say?
It is my bottle.
My bottle. But in this example, what we have here, mine and ours. So this bottle is mine, or these bottles are ours, or this house is ours, or this house is mine. So these are the possessive ones here. The second one is, instead of you, what are you seeing there? Your. So we're talking about not me, but somebody else, one person, right? So I can say yours, as in, is this bottle yours? But if I want to talk to both of you, can I still say yours? How do I make it plural then?
Theirs.
No, I'm talking about still the two of you. For example, your teacher comes in and she says, she just addresses the class and she wants to know who lost $100. Is this yours? And she asks it to the whole class. Can she do that? She can ask that, right? So if she uses it in that sense, yours can also be possessive, plural. It can also be singular, possessive. Confusing? Look at the third one there. The third person, now we have his, hers, and theirs. And for the plural, the plural version of it, it will be theirs. Okay, great. So we're doing fine with time. We just got a few more minutes left. So let's just review this again. If we want, can you use a sentence using mine in a possessive way, Azaria? Singular. And Alicia, you can use yours in a possessive way. And we can come up with one together for the third person one. So Azaria first.
The chair is mine.
The chair is mine. Excellent. That's a good one. Let's have you, Alicia.
Is this orange yours?
Is this orange yours? You talking to me or to like a class?
Yeah.
Oh, if you talk to me, it will be singular, right? If you talk to the class, it will be plural. Yours is both singular and plural in this case, possessive pronoun. Alright, so the third one, third person, his, hers, or theirs. So we can say this building is theirs. You know, some people inherit a building, you know, from family after they have passed or so. This building is now theirs. Or this is his car. Or these books are hers. Or these children are hers, right? If we're talking about a lady who has kids. So this is the last one here with the examples. I don't have a calculator. Can I borrow yours? This is what we had before, right? So now it's coming back again. I wish I had here like hers. Sarah's parking spot is closer than mine is. What's the possessive pronoun in the first one?
Yours.
Yours. What's the possessive pronoun in the second one?
Hers.
Hers. And the third one, it is?
Mine.
Mine. So the first one will be second person, the second example there will be third person, and the last example there will be first person, mine. Okay, so that brings us an end to our lesson today. Any questions? So we learned a lot about possessive pronouns, possessive nouns, and we learned about plural nouns and how to differentiate plural nouns from possessive. If it's a possessive noun, it has an apostrophe either before or after the S, depending if it's singular or plural. If it's a possessive pronoun, it does not have an apostrophe. It will just be yours, mine, hers, theirs, etc. So thank you for joining us today. I hope you learned something, and if we were going a bit too quick for you, make a note of it in the comments and we can adjust that later in our next class. Thank you so much. Have a great time. Bye.
Good afternoon to our viewers. Today we are looking at properties of circles. So welcome to Critical Math, grade 6 to 7. So with us in studio today we have our two students, right? Alicia and Azaria will continue with us as we go along with our concept. And so today we are working with our geo board. So each one of them, they have a geo board to help us to sort out the issues with the circles or the parts of a circle, thereby leading to the properties of circles. And we will also be looking at the online circle as well. All right, so here we have our geo board, and so they're going to be replicating a circle. So mine is red, theirs is yellow, so you won't be able to see theirs as accurately as possible because of the green screen, because I only have access to a red, yellow as well. All right, so here we have a circle, and for our previous concepts we know that it's a plane figure. All right, and what is special about a circle? What is special about it?
It could divide into different parts.
Well, first of all, what do we call? Remember, it's bounded, right? It's bounded by what do we call that line going across there, or going around? You can remember the name?
It starts with D.
It starts with C. C as in circle, so C as in going around. The circle make the things go around, or the world go around. So what is that C? All right, we'll think about that a little later. We can't remember. No issue. All right, so what you find is that these little points that you're seeing here, these little white points here, they all represent points on the circle, and they're on that specific word that I'm not going to mention as yet. And so what you have happening is that these points, there's a special point in the middle there that is called the center. And so these other points on that specific word that we're not mentioning it as yet, they're all of equal distance from that point in the center. Right? So the point in the center, or that is called, or the point in the center, or in the middle of the circle, is called the center, and it's fixed. So all the other points are around that, and they're of equal distances, right? So let's use so what you're going to do is that you're going to replicate the circle using the geo board and the rubber bands. And so we have the circle, the set of all points which are of equal distances from a fixed point called the center. All right, so that is what a circle is. So it's a set of all points which are of equal distance from a fixed point, and that fixed point is called the center. All right, so here we have a replica of a circle, and notice I'm not going to draw in that specific name of that part as yet. So here we have in the middle there, that will be our center. All right, and we have the points going around there. All of them would be of equal distances. So for example, see that point, see that? Let me put another one here. All right, so those points are equal distances from the center. So if from the center to that point there, right, if it's 5 centimeters, it means all the other lines going around from the center to that point there would be the same distance. Actually, that the points are all on the circumference of a circle. So that's the word, C word, circumference, right? So circumference is like the perimeter of the circle. So it's bounded by, so the circle, it's bounded by the circumference, more or less. All right? Good. So that brings us to some specific aspects of the circle. So let me take these off. All right, so this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to draw a line from one part of the circumference to the next. Let's see how many we can have here. Now notice what is happening with the lines. What do you notice about the lines?
They're getting longer.
They're getting longer. And what happens next?
And smaller.
Right, because so where does it peak really? All right, so let me draw the next one here. We can next one there. All right, so where does the line peak? So if you draw a line from one part of the circumference to another part of the circumference, that line is called a chord. So that line is called a chord. C-H-O-R-D. It's a chord. So a chord is a line drawn from one part of the circumference to another point on the circumference, right? So that's what we call a chord. Now notice, so how many chords have I drawn in there so far? Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So I've drawn in there 11 chords, right? Now look at the specific chord. How many chords pass through the center there?
1.
Where is that? That's here, eh? So this is a chord. And the special name given to that chord is what? Let me see if you remember. What's the special name? Begin with D?
Diameter.
Diameter. Diameter. D-I-A-M-E-T-E-R. Diameter. And why do we call it the diameter?
Because it's the center.
Because it passes through
The center.
the center of the circle. Right? So the diameter is a chord, right? So because remember, it's drawn from one point on the circumference to another point on the circumference. So it's a chord. But because it passes through the center, the special name given is a chord, diameter, sorry. Right? Special name given. All right. Now there are other lines that you can draw, for example. Now sometimes too, you can have a line, right, passing through a circle. You can have that, right? So let me show you what's happening here. So you can have, all right, let me see if I can draw circles because that. All right, so that's a circle. And you can have a line passing through like that. Now notice the line extends beyond the boundary of the circle, right? But what happens is that that line touches the circle at that point and at that point. So what do we call that line? It's no longer a chord. If we take off the two ends, right? If we take off the two ends outside of the circle, it would be a chord, right? But the line passes through the circle, and we have a special name for that. Have you heard of that name? It begins with S.
A sector.
Not something, but not ter. We'll come back to that a bit. Second. We call it a second. This is a second. So second is a line that passes through the circle, or it intersects a circle. All right? Notice it's on the outside as well. Boom. All right? Good. Now, we can also have a line. All right? So these are some concepts you will learn later as well. The line. So what's the difference between these two lines?
One passes through.
One passes through and touches the circle how many times?
2.
2 times. And the other one?
Once.
It's not passing through, but it touches the circle how many times?
One.
One time. So some point here. Let's highlight it in red. Some point there. What's the name given to that line? Begins with T. You probably heard it before, but didn't pay too much attention to it. A, T, A, N. We can play, what's the thing, hangman? T, N, G, E, N, T. I spell a word there, tangent. It's called a tangent, all right? So these are terms you will see later on in the upper school. But it's good to know the lines that, intersect the circle. So the line is called a tangent, and why do we call it a tangent? Because it touches a circle how many times?
One.
Once. That's the idea. So a line is a tangent when it touches a circle once. Great. So that point, and it's externally, right? It touches the circle on the outside, not on the inside. The second is the one that passes through on the inside of the circle. All right? All right. So going back to our diagram that we have here. So far we've looked at a chord. All right? So we can have many chords there. All right? And the chords are lines drawn from one part of the circumference to another part of the circumference. And then we also examine that the chord that passes through the center, we call that the diameter. So you can replicate the diameter there on your geoboard, right? Anywhere but once it passes through the center. All right, so if we were to replicate it here as well, I can either go top down. All right. So that's our. All right. Now, there's another concept that comes out from the diameter. So let me take this off. One by one, just a bit. Don't want to delete everything. All right. So I'm going to draw back our diameter. Now, so what's happening there with the diameter?
It's going straight through the center.
Great, good. Now, sometimes we do not need the, sometimes this is what we have. From here to there. What do we call that line?
Radius.
Yeah, you know that line. That line is called radius, right? Radius. Radius. Very well. And the radius is represented by, we use a letter R to represent the radius. So note, if I touch from here to here, what do I have?
A diameter.
Another radius, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. Use radius. So one is a radius and two radii. The plural is radii, radii, right? Radii. Good. So what happens? So what do you notice about the two radii? So two of them gives us what?
Diameter.
Exactly. So two of the radii gives us
Diameter.
diameter. So D, if we can put the symbol here, D is equal to 2R. So you see how we can have or you can see D diameter is equal to R plus R. So you see where your algebra is coming in? And so D is equal to R plus R. Like terms in algebra? 2R?
2R, yeah.
D is equal to 2R. Follow?
Yeah.
Alright, great. Now there are other parts of a circle. So for example, let's think in terms of let me use a pizza. Everybody know the pizza, right? And your parent gives you a pizza and they ask you to share the pizza divide up the pizza so that you can share it to your friends. How are you going to divide up this pizza? Remember, pizza is kind of circular in nature as well, right? So how are you going to cut it up? Are you going to cut it up in squares?
Slices.
Slices? So how you're slicing it? Like
Triangular.
trianglish, right? So you want to do it a bit trianglish. So like that. So somebody get that slice. Right? Another slice. Alright? Well, I didn't do that equally, but you get the idea. Alright, so you slice up your pizza. So what do we call one slice? Alright, so if we're to replicate it here, let's replicate our pizza slice. One there. That's a slice of pizza. See the slice of pizza? So what's happening in there with the slice?
No.
Say it. That's exactly what it is. So say it. It's a
sector.
sector. Right? So it's a sector. So another part of a circle is what we call it. Let me take this off. So we have a sector. So a slice of the pizza is called a sector. Right? So here we have sector. Now, notice what is happening with the sector. So let me, if I'm to, let's put in, I'm just putting in a part of the circumference here. So what do you notice about the sector? Anything specific about the sector? So those two red lines, what we call those? So this line, what do we call this line here?
Quad.
That line?
A radius.
Right, so that's the radius here. Over here we have another one, right? See that? And what do we call the black line there? That's part of what?
Circumference.
Part of the circumference, right? Now, part of the circumference, there's a special name given to that, right? So once you're taking part of it, we call that an arc. So that's an arc, right? So here, so this is my radius, right? That is representative of my radius. And then this portion coming across here, that's my arc. So it's part of the circumference, right? So a sector is actually bounded by, you have two radii and what's the portion? An arc, right? So it makes some sense. All right, so let me go here. Let me write a sector. So we can represent a sector. So we have a circle. Right, we have a center. So that's one radius, one radius. So notice the radius is drawn from, so the radius, right? The radius is drawn from where? Is drawn from
The center.
exactly from the center to where?
The circumference.
To some point on the circumference. That's the idea. To some point on the circumference. Right? And then we mentioned that a part of the circumference, or a portion, what do we call it? It's called an arc. A-R-C. So let's put that in red. Let's put that in red. Put that in red. So if you're looking back at our sector, so the sector is bounded by how many radii? 2 radii and an arc. All right. So let's say you give this. So you've decided that you're going to give your friend or your cousin that one slice, right? And then you're keeping the larger portion for yourself, right? So I'm going a little bit extra here. So this little piece that you're giving to your friend, that is called a minor sector. It's a minor piece. And if you're taking the large piece, what do we call that? Major? Major. So the bigger portion, we call it major. Major sector. Right? So these are all parts of the circle. So it's good to know some of them. You're not too young to know about the different parts of the circle in terms of sector, because you eat pizza. And it's just not necessarily a slice, right? You're taking a sector. Get the idea? So if you take the smaller portion for yourself, you're taking a minor sector, and the remainder, that's the larger portion that you leave back for your family, right? So they will get the major sector. All right, good. Now additionally, so we're learning things about the circle, right? So what do you think these two are going to be equal? Are they going to be equal in length? Let's go back here. Do you think the radius are going to be equal in length? What do you think? Yes. So they're going to be equal in length. Great. So let's take this off. And let's examine, come back to the curl a bit. So the chord also causes a particular division too, right? Oops. All right, let me undo like that. The chord also causes a particular division, and so let's see what division you get here. So let me draw a chord from here to here. So that's our chord. Now, divide the circle into, let me draw in the boundary here as it relates to the circle so you have a better idea. Please excuse my hand here. I'm trying to draw it as accurately as possible. Alright. It's supposed to be a smooth circle. Alright. So you see that division there? So the curl, so we call this a curl. Let me write the name curl. So divide the circle, how many parts? Look at the circle. How many parts you have divided into? Two parts. And so there we have a little piece and a bigger piece, right? So the name for this little piece is what we call this a segment. That's a segment, and we also have a segment here. So the smaller segment is called what? Just like with the sector. The smaller would be minor, as Alicia is thinking. Minor. And then the bigger one we call bigger. You forgot the term? Minor and major, right? So the minor is the small one, major is the bigger one. All right, so here, replicating. So replicate the segment. So use your geoboard. All right, so that's my segment. So let me see you replicate your segment. All right, just great. Or I can replicate my segment from here too as well. From here. Isn't this a segment as well? But what happens here? So what happens when the chord hold up. Take this off. I don't want to delete everything there. All right. So what happens? What happens when the chord passes through the center? What's gonna happen here?
Half of the center.
Right. So you don't have a minor and a major segment anymore. So you have two equal parts there, right? Two equal parts. So you have two semi, right? Half of a circle, two semicircles. Did you follow?
Yeah.
Makes sense, right? Cool. Any questions so far? All right. Now, when it comes to degrees, how many degrees you think you'll have in a circle?
360.
Definitely, because you're going all the way around. So you're going all the way around. So if it's from the center, so it doesn't matter. So if you break up the circle into different sectors, right? Each sector you'll have an angle. So for example here, all right? So that's a sector, and every sector depends on how you divide it up. How many we have? 1, 2. So let's see here. 1, 2. And then we have 1, 1, 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Right? 1, 2. 1, 2. Right. See that? So each one of these sectors are going to have a specific angle. And so if you're dividing up right? So you get a total of 360 degrees in the center. And so once you have the circle divided into equal sectors, right? Each sector is going to have the same angle. Right? Each sector is going to have the same angle. So once you have equal divisions there, each sector is going to have the same angle. How many angle? What degree you think one of those is going to be? First, you got to determine how many sectors do we have. How many sectors did we divide it into? You can count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 sectors. Right? 8 sectors. So if you divide the total angle by 8, well then you know how much one sector is going to be. Right? So do your division. Sure. You getting through? You need some help?
Good. 45.
How many?
45.
You sure? You absolutely sure? 45? Alright, we'll check it later. Alright, so once the sector is divided into equal parts, right? 45. Because from here to here is going to give you 90. So you get 45 here, 45, 45 as you guys, you rightly calculated. 45, 45, 45, 45. So each angle is going to be 45 degrees. So that's the idea. Alright? So we looked at the different parts of a circle, right? And we said that the circle is a set of all points which are of equal distances from a fixed point, and that fixed point is called the center, right? That's the only point that is not moving, more or less, that fixed point. It remains fixed, not moving. All right. So all the other points, they move around that fixed point. All right. And the boundary for that circle, we call it the circumference. And another terminology is the perimeter of a circle. Right. We use the term perimeter and so on. All right. So we found that a line drawn from one part of the circumference to another part of the circumference is called a chord. All right. And when that chord passes through the center of the circle, we call it the diameter. All right. We also looked at a line drawn from the center of the circle to any point on the circumference, that is called a radius. And we also saw that two of the radius, or one radius plus another radius, gives you the entire diameter. So the diameter is actually 2 times the radius, or radius plus radius. All right. So we also looked at, you can have lines passing through the circle, and the special name given to the line, as Alicia has rightly said earlier, right, the second. And you can also have a line touching a circle on the outside in one place, and that line is called a tangent. Those are terminologies those are things that you need to know, but you'll use those concepts later. All right. We've also found that the sector, right, is also part of the circle, and it's like a slice of pizza, because remember, pizza is circular in nature, and so the sector is bounded by one radius, another radius, and then you have part of the circumference. All right. Now, if you examine the sector as well, right, the smaller part of the sector, we call it the minor sector, and then if you have the bigger portion, that is called the major. All right. Also, a chord divides a circle into 2 parts. So it depends on where you draw the chord, right? So if there's a chord, if the chord is not passing through the center, obviously, you're going to have a small segment, which is a minor segment, and then you have a big segment, which is called a major segment. All right? And a segment is bounded by a chord and part of the circumference as well. Right? So it's like if you're drawing a lip. Right? So easy way to remember a segment, like a lip. See somebody lip? Right, so you get a visual, right? Yeah. So it's like a lip. So the lip is like a chord, and that bottom piece there is the arc, right? At least so you got a little visual, so you won't. I'm sure that you won't forget a segment. All right. So that's it for today. In our next session, we will examine the relationship between the circumference and the diameter of a circle, and so. All right. So thank you for watching and for being good students today. Bye.